Keeping the conversation PG, what part of the body do you think is most ripe for body horror descriptions?
Do you want me to yell at my answer, or do you want me to roll it?
No, go ahead. Yell out your answer.
The mouth.
Yeah?
It's just, everybody's mouth is different. Everyone's, use of their mouth is different. Again, we're keeping it PG, so do not come at me in the comments.
I feel like this is a PSA. Everyone has a different mouth. Your mouth is special, just like mine.
And nobody else can touch your mouth unless you say they're allowed to touch your mouth.
Least popular children's book ever.
I'm going to write it.
Every mouth is different. Every mouth is special. Eyes. Eyes freak me out.
That was going to be my second one.
You guys are going to love my monster today. I'm just throwing that out there, because it's all mouths and eyes as far as the eye can see.
As far as I get it.
As far as the mouth can squelch.
You can squelch.
Yeah. I would say skin. When you pull it too tight across bones, or when it's too flappy, or it's got weird creases or scars, or you can get real fucking weird with skin if it opens in the wrong place.
Sores, pussiness.
Yeah, boils and shit.
Rotting.
Have you ever seen those pictures of when they replace someone's eyes with mouths?
Not
a
and the teeth are showing?
Yeah.
Not a fan with those eyeball chiclets.
Yeah, but see, for me, it's the idea of I remember reading stories online of people that have been hit by serious burns, and you go to move them and you grab by the leg and their skin sloughs off.
Oh, yeah, degloving.
Yeah, that kind of shit. Yeah.
Why do you call it that?
That's what it's called.
That's the medical term. I took paramedic level first aid, and we saw a bunch of pictures of people in industrial accidents where they put their hand in a machine and it just sucked the skin right off their hand.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Or rings. Rings are really bad for it too, if you get them caught on something.
Yeah.
I look at my 900 rings that I have on my hands.
See, I'm wearing my safety ring. It's the squishy. It's made of rubber.
No, I don't work with heavy machinery, so I don't really.
That's okay. You can get it just caught on a table edge.
Great.
Or
yeah.
That's what you get for just calling me okay.
You're doing all right in life, you know? You're doing all right.
I think I'm going to cry.
Good. I just said I need to stop being mean. My bad. I'll rate it in.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome back to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get. Today we're continuing our discussion on Aberrations in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm Kyle, and with me today are Adam and Megan, and this episode is called Aberrations, a Range of the Strange and Deranged.
In this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, this panel of Dungeon Masters is going to finally dig into 3 of the most classic and iconic aberrations that aren't part of any army from beyond the stars.
Before we get into it, I want to ask, as a DM, when do you start looking at adding aberrations into your games?
Yo.
Oh, I got bumped into a 15.
I'm a 5. All right, well, you first then.
It depends on what game you're playing. I feel like they could be very hyper-focused into, your classic horror games or, just things that have natural weird-looking creatures or magical items. But if you're not playing a game that has a lot of magic in it or is, classic dungeon crawls, I don't think I would really reach for them right away. But I feel like if they're going to be my campaigns, I would just start introducing them early. If they're going to be there, my players need to know that they're going to be there. Whether they fight them, talk to them, whatever, there just has to be a known knowledge that they exist, in my mind anyways.
I just don't reach for them in tier 1. I just don't.
Yeah.
That's when you have so many other things you're never going to fight again. Like the one skeleton that's scary, or the giant frog, or... Aberrations are great. Tier 2, Tier 3, scare the players, ramp up the next level of horror or danger or whatever because they do weird things.
They do weird things.
But at level 2, 3, 4, 5, man, it's time to fight goblins. This is when bandits are effective. I've got other things to do, right?
Yeah, because you're never going to fight them again, so fight the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Although I reach for them all the time. I mean, I probably wouldn't use them as a main quest line, but I like them for a side kind of point. That maybe it's going to get teased all throughout the game, and it's going to be a little by little.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
I'm a big fan of the teaser, but you're also like you do a lot of macabre type stuff, right?
Yeah.
In your game, so that makes sense. You would use them all the time.
Yeah, but you're like me, right? You love the weird shit to make your players go, ew, why, ew.
Okay, but why?
The number of times that I've described a monster, Megan's looked at me and gone, what?
It really it's a what? Ew.
Yeah.
Ew, Adam.
There it is. That's the one. Or it's Adam. No.
I feel like mine's like the ew David, but it's like ew Adam.
And that's impressive because we have a David at the table. So.
We do.
Okay, before we delve into the wild, weird world of Aberrations, let's head for a short info break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on monsters in 5th edition. For all of those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. And if you'd like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join our Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you'd like to pay for some ad space on It's a Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
This week on the It's a Mimic Patreon, Dave and I sit down to go over the mythic odysseys of Theros, and he spends a lot of time comparing it to his experiences with Magic the Gathering. But for now, let's get back to the episode.
Okay, yeah, so we are going to get into some of these aberrations. So let's roll off and see who's going to go first.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna take my black dice back.
Hey!
Ooh.
Oh, that was fancy.
Roll the 5.
Oh, I got an 18. I'm excited to go first because...
I got a 3.
You're just doing okay.
Yeah.
One of these days, we're going to get you a grown-up chair as well to sit in. Because I do feel like we pulled forward the kid to sit at the adult table.
We did. And he's
Just
struggling with his position.
It's just like high school all over again.
All right, so I'm going to start off by talking about one of my low-key favorites, the Gibbering Mouther. Are you guys familiar with this? Because
No.
I don't really play with these, but I
Sure am.
fucking love them. Gibbering Mouthers are slimy, amorphous, flesh-like, semi-liquid blobs that are covered in various randomly placed and randomly sized eyes and mouths that cover most of its body and seem to be pointed at whomever is unfortunate enough to behold them. They squish and squelch along the ground and through water slowly by manipulating whichever mouths are on the bottom to pull or pucker and drag themselves where their central brain deems is most beneficial. And they only have one basic motivation: to add their next victim to their mass by chewing creatures up and immediately absorbing the pulp to their bodies. No one knows where Gibbering Mouthers come from. Some say that they're sentient creatures who died and were warped by the influence of the far realms. Others say that these are ambitious mortals who were corrupted by twisted magics. Only one thing is known for certain: they are unnatural creatures who consume and absorb their prey, and when they get too big, they retreat for a handful of hours, slowly splitting down the middle to create a similar spawn. In previous editions, Gibbering Mouthers had enough wisdom to stay quiet and lie in wait for something to come close enough. In 5th edition, they are more easily detected as all of the mouths begin to make noises the moment they sense their prey. And what noises, you may be asking? Well, it's a unique noise for each mouth, with a different clarity and timbre for each. Some are deep and booming, some are shrill and shrieking, some are louder, some are softer, but none of them are actually speaking. They simply just emote frantically, wailing, ululating, crying out in agony or in ecstasy, weeping, grunting, chattering, murmuring, sighing, squealing, moaning, groaning, droning, and even balefully howling. Manic giggles, sickly coughs, pained gasps, desperate sobbing, off-key humming, and heavy breathing. The mouths merge together with the wet sounds of lips smacking and teeth gnashing, sometimes forming circular maws with rows of teeth, sometimes becoming long or wide as the jagged fangs push painfully through the gelatinous gums and lips to rearrange in the most hostile way possible. And wriggling pseudopods of various lengths and girths sprout toward the mass, sometimes to push an eye or a cluster of eyes in your direction. Sometimes it's to grab a hold of something to help pull its awkward body towards its target. Sometimes it's merely to propel a mouth forward so its fangs can find purchase in some flesh. But whatever a mouth might be doing, whether propelling the abomination forward, grasping for victims, pulping skin and meat and organs, or merging with other mouths in unnaturally painful ways, that mouth, along with all the others, is making a dreadful sound that adds to the maddening choir of horror. And the noise is literally maddening. It jams up your senses and scrapes at your psyche, forcing you to run in terror, stand petrified in fear, or descend into momentary insanity. And chances are good that it's going to catch you if you get close, because the ground around the mouther becomes soft and dough-like, making moving through it difficult for most and impossible for some. And if a gibbering mouther catches you, like I said, it consumes you. But it doesn't have a stomach or a throat, it just has mouths. Mouths that chew and fangs that scoop inward into bloody mash that used to be your body. And as it absorbs every part of your broken, pureed meat sack, your eyes and mouth bubble up to the nearest surface, and whatever remains of you joins the gibbering mouther in its demented, frenzied quest for violence and propagation. But for all the nightmares this medium-sized aberration inspires, it's only a CR2. Previous editions state that the gibbering mouther are solitary creatures, and they have no use for moving in groups. And while 5th edition lore merely hints at this, I think it makes sense that they would have no need for familial ties, group tactics, or mating displays. The moment they split into two, they move away from each other. Which is great, because they pack a fucking punch for CR2. First, let me get into the bad news. They have 98 plus 27 hit points for your second level party, which means they're going to last a few rounds, even against other higher tier 1 parties. They can't be knocked prone, they have 60 feet of dark vision, and everything it does is designed to kill you outright. The ground in a 10-foot radius around the gibbering mouther becomes doughy and acts as difficult terrain. If you start your turn within the area, you have to make a DC 10 strength save, or have your speed reduced to 0 until the start of the gibbering mouther's next turn. The incoherent babbling affects everyone within 20 feet that can hear it, forcing a DC 10 wisdom save, and if you fail, you lose your reactions for the round, and you roll a d8 to determine what to do on the next round. On a 1 to 4, you're forced to do nothing. On a 5 to 6, you move in a random direction. On a 7 to 8, you can reach a creature. If you can reach a creature, you'll randomly attack it with a melee attack. And while all of that is bad, it gets worse when you get to its actions. I'm sure you're not surprised that it has a bite attack, because it's right in the fucking name, but what might surprise you is that at level 2 it does 5d6 piercing damage.
Oh.
Yep, and the strength save also forces you to potentially be knocked prone if you fail. If you're killed by this attack, you are immediately absorbed, and at this level, there's no resurrection magic that can save you if you don't have a body. And on top of that, there's also a blinding spittle attack that recharges on a 5 or 6. This glob of chemicals lands within 15 feet of the gibbering mouther and explodes like a flashbang. Any creature within 5 feet of the explosion has to make a DC 13 dex save or be blinded until the end of the mouther's turn. So, I mentioned that this was all the bad news, implying that there was good news. And the good news is that these creatures are essentially slow-moving glass cannons. Yes, it has a pile of hit points, but the AC is 9.
Yeah.
You're gonna hit it. Yes, it can see in the dark, but you'll hear it the moment it's within 60 feet because it always starts babbling as soon as it senses you. Meaning, it's going to take a while before it gets close enough to actually catch you. You will get attacks in first. And it will take a while because its speed, both on land and in water, is a mere 10 feet. And its stats are not great when it comes to saves. Intelligence is abysmal, charisma and dexterity are bad, strength and wisdom are average, only its con is decent, and outside of an increased chance to shrug off poison damage, you're not going to feel an increased con on the battlefield. Not at level 2.
Yeah.
Add on to the low intelligence and charisma the fact that it's got a neutral alignment. This creature might be a desperate malevolent hunter, but it's not really setting traps or using any advanced tactics or even really hates you. So that's what we have for Gibbering Mouther. They're
Yeah.
super fucking gross, and if they catch you, you're in trouble, but you'll probably get away.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the conundrums of gelatinous cubes.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's that same kind of feel, and that feel of danger of, yeah, you could probably kill it, but if you get sucked into it and can't get out, then you will die.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's it.
Neat. I hate it.
Don't give a party a lot of room to run.
Yeah.
This would be like a dungeon crawl kind of.
Oh, absolutely. Or caves too, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you're underground, you're in the dark, and I would put it on the other side of a wall.
Yeah.
Right? So like you turn the corner and it's right fucking there, right?
Yeah.
It couldn't sense you because it doesn't say that it's deaf, but it doesn't have ears. It's just eyes and mouths.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just on the other side of the door when you open it up.
Yeah.
Spend 45 minutes trying to open a door, and when you finally do, this is standing there.
Yeah.
Oh, the door's trapped. Nope.
The door is not trapped.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have amorphous.
It's not an ooze. It's an aberration. So
Yeah, but other things have.
it's mostly an ooze. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's maybe 2 or 3, like some of the elementals
Yeah.
can fit through those small gaps. But
I feel like because it has its teeth and its eyeballs, they're not going to be able to shrink down small enough.
yeah, and they're all different sizes too, and they keep merging and splitting.
If you
and
look
it's
at the
very gross.
imagery, some of those mouths and teeth are quite large.
Yeah.
So, not a fan.
No. Yeah. That's going to be a tough act to follow with the descriptions.
I say for a CR2, that seems pretty. To your point, it only has 9 hit points, but
Oh no, 9 AC.
Sorry,
it
9
has
AC.
like nearly 100 hit points.
Yeah.
I guess it's 99 at max level.
Okay, well then that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you are going to be backing up and shooting it for 3 rounds, and then it will die.
Yeah.
Right. But
Well, depends. At level 2, if you roll shitty, you're not going to. So, anyways,
Yeah.
cool.
All right. Well, let's get into some questions.
Sure.
So let's roll off.
I got bumped to a 1.
Yeah. 7.
that black die is not doing it for you, hey? Well, talk to yourself, Kyle. I got a 6.
Oh, all right, fine. So, Kyle, do you have any role-playing inspirations for the Gibbering Mouther? Why, yes, Kyle, I do. Thank you for asking.
Do you want us to leave you 2 alone?
Yeah, if you would.
Feels like you need a moment.
Oh, I think he's having a moment.
So, obviously, there's not much roleplay you can do with this because it doesn't talk. It just gibbers,
Yeah.
right? But I think if you wanted to do like a rumor, you can have it being, there's a cave that people enter and nobody leaves. And they can just hear this indistinct whispering coming on. So they think it's a
Yeah.
cult with no idea that it's actually this
Or even
hideous, disgusting
ghosts or
monster.
something,
Yeah.
too, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking haunted house, right? Like it's in the basement of a haunted house or something
Mhm.
like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The role playing I'm going to lean into on this is whenever it eats somebody, and it will eat NPCs. That's such important thing for it to do as a set piece thing, is it's got to eat somebody. And when it does, they have to be awake and they have to be screaming.
Yeah.
And you've got to hear them, like the bones crunching, the meat getting mashed, and then you can see specifically their eyes and mouth, and the mouth never stops screaming as it like bubbles up to the surface of the flesh,
Yeah.
and it's added to it. I want that evocative storytelling moment, because that is how this thing is going to interact with everybody else at the table.
Mm.
I know for a fact, if I were to describe it like that, Casey, Dan, Dave, and Charlie would go, neat. And Megan and Miek would say, fucking no, stop it.
Ew, Adam.
Get that mini off the table. Yeah.
No, I like the idea of the haunt, like it's in the basement of a haunted house, because you would have that weird creepy howling and baleful howl, and you think that
Yes.
there's wolves in the house, but no, it's just this weird moth thing down there. But I also like the idea that it would be in a like a slaughterhouse. Like it exists in a slaughterhouse where blood, guts, and gore happen on a regular basis, and this thing was just like migrated there because it's
Yeah.
getting a constant feed. But then it gets too hungry and not because it doesn't have hunger,
Yeah.
but it starts getting a little bit too obvious that it's now killing real livestock and not just feeding off of the remains. And then you go into the slaughterhouse and you find this thing just nom-nomming on all the cows and sheep and so on and so forth.
Honestly, that's a great idea. Like revenge of the slaughtered cows.
Yeah.
Like they have formed into this thing.
It's actually cow mouths and
Yeah.
like hooves.
Oh, just like a cacophony of different, like, pained mooing.
Yeah. Ugh.
And then chewing on cud.
Yeah.
Fuck to it.
Actually, she got fired.
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh.
I feel so honestly like I just hope she's a good kind of famous at some point.
Yeah, well, she got merch now.
Ugh.
So, anyway. While you were talking, it occurred to me that you ever see, like, oh, we're going to summon the whatever from beyond. However, if we don't do it right, it could summon something else. And
Yeah.
these things would be great for tier 1. Everybody's trapped around the summoning circle, holding hands and chanting, and you've got your homebrew spell to pull in an angel or to talk to someone dead or to do something. And then instead, 3 of these things just bop, bop, bop.
It's a Full Metal Alchemist like
Yeah.
mistake
Yeah.
occurs.
Someone steps in the circle and then they all just get sucked in.
The wind blows and the line gets cut. And it's
Yeah.
just like blah blah.
Yeah.
This gross, disgusting thing appears. And of course, an NPC is going to think it's an angel and walk towards it and get omnommed immediately.
Yeah.
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 Well, angels are nothing but eyes and circles, right? So it's close.
Done.
All right. Do you guys have, or I guess Kyle, do you have any exploration tips? I like the idea of finding a goo trail, just like a snail that you're following into this thing.
The mushy ground.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's a ooze, but then all of a sudden you hear this creepy whispering.
I like the idea too that like because it warps the ground around it to make it doughy and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have this like concrete stone like floor where people have been fighting this thing before, and you can see in the stonework like deep impressions of footprints, or like looks like somebody fell here, but the stone is hard.
Yeah.
Why? Is
There's
the
like
ground?
half a boot just
Yeah.
sticking up from the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone's sword stuck in the stone.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
It's a whole new sword in the stone. This is the recreation of it.
Yeah. So
It's
that's how it happened.
a little different. I like the idea of the like it's so easy to lean into the whispering, but warping the terrain is so weird. And I would do it more than just ground.
Yeah.
Like trees, if it's passing by outdoors, would just like kind of
Slump.
bend and fall over and just kind of all the branches would droop, or
The long grass bends. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
as it passes down the corridor, all the paintings on the wall slowly slide down because the nails are moving down through the wall, right? Like everything's just kind of melty.
Melty clock,
Yeah.
classic art form.
You
Yeah.
said clock, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need me to say it
No,
with
no.
more aggression?
No.
Clock.
It is a clock. That was it. That was.
Yeah,
that was-
that's it. Okay.
You're doing fantastic.
I said
Thank
I said
you.
melty cluck. So.
Her work here is done.
Yeah, so for combat inspirations, well, I don't really have any inspiration for that. I mean, like, I would use it as a trap. I like the idea of one of these things falling from a ceiling and then just getting a party trapped in a short hallway kind of thing.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think using one of these things, tongues, as a spell component, I don't know, or like some kind of poison would be really cool.
The spittle.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
artwork doesn't show a single tongue in all of the mouths. They're just like circular maws. With
Yeah, but it
fangs.
has to have a
But
tongue.
You can have one of the fucking tendrils come out of the mouth acting like a tongue. Even.
Yeah, like a
So,
pseudopod
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mimics
kinda fun,
people
yeah.
that are around it. Or
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the tongue just adds an extra creepy flavor to it.
I
Especially if they're like slavering and like it's just lolling around outside the mouth as they're howling like.
It's just how they change the dialect of how they're speaking.
Yeah.
I
And how they tell time.
for
the clock.
For the cluck.
for combat, I just gotta say you're going to kill the player character.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you are doing this in tier 1 and you get the jump on someone, the bite doing 5d6 is nuts.
Mhm.
But also the fact that they can't get away.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult terrain, even if they pass the test. If you bite them and they get knocked prone, they have to use half their movement to stand up. And then even in difficult terrain, that's half their movement again. They're only going 5 feet, and it's a 10-foot radius.
Yeah. I gotta tell you that 10 feet is very limiting. I use these things in a battle with my party that was level 3.
Yeah.
And I brought in 3 of them for 5 people, and I didn't kill a single player. Because that 10 feet of movement is incredibly limiting when your players can just run around. And if they make the save for not being blinded, or because the strength saving throw was only 10.
Yeah.
Right? It's not exactly tough to beat.
No, that's why you're aiming for your wizard, who's got a -1, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
But then you also have to make sure it's coming in from behind, right? Because
Yeah.
your wizard's always going to, unless
It-
your wizard's an idiot, he's
Yeah.
always going to be in the back, right?
Okay, so then you go for the sorcerer, because they are an idiot.
Yeah,
So
usually.
I've never known a smart sorcerer. But I will say this. If you dash, and it's got the 10-foot radius on the actual, like, amorphous, whatever, ground that it does, and then it can do the spittle as well on the next turn, you can actually move 10, dash another 10, and then you have the 10-foot radius. So you're only moving 10, but you can lock down at least one player.
Yeah, but you only get that one shot, because if you don't get it on that one shot, then they're out of that range.
Then they're out of that range, yeah. But you do have, again, the ability to move 10 and spit 15. So some of the smaller characters are going to get caught, right? And then
Yeah.
they're blinded and they're going to have disadvantage against you. I really like these things also being able to slurp through like a grate of some sort or a fence that they can move through. It's not exactly amorphous, but they can slurp to the other side.
Yeah.
And then they can't be hit. You have to get close. and then they're back, right? So
Yeah. Or just put them in a small space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I would try and do, especially if you have wizards and other things that can do ranged attacks on it. I would give it a small space.
bottom of a pit trap.
Yeah. Little
Yeah, that's
trash,
always
like
good.
little trash mob kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the back of the closet door. You open the closet door and this thing is stuck to the side of it, and then it's beside you.
Yes.
Yeah. Roll initiative.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Anybody else have anything else towards that?
It's very, very easy to just fudge the numbers a little bit to make this a tier 2 or tier 3 monster.
Yeah.
Right? You just have to up the AC and the saves, and it becomes real scary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because the saves are low, but if you fail, it's deadly. But
Yeah.
the probability of you passing is still pretty high.
yeah. So
Yeah.
True. All right. And Megan, you're up next.
I am up next, so I'm going to talk about Grell. So Grell can be found in the regular monster manual and are a weird floating tentacle brain with a beak.
yay.
That is the To make it worse, tentacles are actually super strong and tough fibrous tendrils with sharp barbs at the end. The imagery is literally a brain with a beak with barbed tentacles. That's it. That's what it looks like.
And specifically like a beak and not a bill.
Yeah,
Okay.
beak. And it's 10 tendrils. So 5 on each side.
So you can have 10 tickles.
10 tickles.
Yeah.
Yes. To make it even worse, it has control over the barbs themselves, so it doesn't actually have to pierce anything. It can choose what it hurts or holds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right. So if it wants to hold somebody nicely, it can.
It won't.
So great hugger.
Yeah.
Great. Gives great hugs. They have no eyes, but they do have super keen hearing, as well as they can absorb the electrical fields around it. Because if I think of it's a brain, it has electrical nonsenses in it, so think of it that way. So it can sense electrical fields, so it doesn't really need to see. So it can sense the beings that are around it.
It's like Daredevil, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. So again, doesn't really need the eyes. But we'll get into that when I talk about the stats of how that kind of works.
Sure.
They are considered floating ambushers because they float around, as I mentioned. They don't really walk on their tendrils. They do float. So they do tend to actually wander in packs. There is a little bit of a difference in some of the older editions versus the newer editions on whether they are solo or travel around in groups. But in the current 5th edition, they actually travel around in groups called covens.
Neat.
Yeah. So... But they also what this means is they also like to do silent attacks, so they like to hover over doorways and on ceilings, where they can descend quickly, paralyze with their tentacles, and then drag someone away to their lair. So
I love it.
super gross.
Secret hugs.
Super creepy. It's just not great. Yeah, these are non-consented hugs.
Yeah.
They're also big devourers. This means that they group predators into 3 different groups: edibles, non-edibles, and great eaters.
I'm all about the edibles.
I know, hey?
Yeah.
I knew that was going to come up, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not dumb. They will most likely not attack something that is larger than itself, as it will want to paralyze and carry it away, like I mentioned. So if it is larger than they are and they can't carry it, they probably will not engage in battle with you.
How big are they?
They're a medium-sized creature.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't look like they've got a whole lot going on. I feel
No.
like they're not bigger than a whole lot of things.
Yeah. So stats-wise, they are a medium-sized creature. And they are considered neutral evil. They have an AC of 12 and a speed of 10. So I imagine if they do decide to walk on their tentacles, they are very, very slow, or they flop down on their brain and hop forward. And that's why they're super slow. I don't know how to imagine that. You as DMs can decide how you want to imagine that. But their hover speed is 30. So they can float around at a regular 30 speed. They're actually a CR 3. So they're a little bit more than Adam's creature. Their stats, again, and some of their attacks kind of make me feel and understand why, but not really. But we'll figure that out. We can talk about that.
Okay.
So they do have above average in most stats, except for charisma, which is -1. And their highest stat is +2 in strength and dex. Everything else is +1.
Sure, that makes sense.
They're skilled in perception, which makes sense. And they are skilled in stealth, which makes sense. So they like to hide around, and then they can perceive and feel things that are around it so that it fits. They are immune to lightning. So as I mentioned, they have that weird ability where they can kind of feel the electric fields around them. So they're just immune to lightning, as well as being blinded. Obviously, it has no eyes, and being knocked prone. And I feel like that's just because it's a brain that can flop around. So
Well, it hovers. But
Yeah.
things that hover,
Hovered.
you can't knock a beholder prone.
Yeah.
Right? So
And then the stat that like really ties together the fact that it doesn't have any eyes is it does have blind sight up to 60 feet. But it is noted that after that, they are completely blind.
Okay.
So they can see what's going on right in front of them, but if you surpass their 60 feet, they cannot technically see you anymore.
There's a bunch of mind flayer shit. Every time that we get a brain, like I think the intellect devourers are blind beyond a radius, and the elder brain is blind beyond a radius.
Yeah.
Are these things tied at all to mind flayers?
Not that I can see,
All right.
unless you know. If
No.
anybody else, I
No.
didn't see anything.
They're brain aberrations, that's why I asked. But,
Yeah, so I imagine that they would be, probably in some lore sitting somewhere. The internet might be able to correct me, but from what I can find, they are their own
Okay.
thing. But
I do remember reading something about them that they actually can't eat brains. So they're like the opposite of mind flayers.
yeah.
Like they can eat any part of a humanoid except for their brain, which is poisonous to them.
That's
Interesting.
wild. I
That's
like
cool.
that. I also like the beak for that then, because, they're going to crack the skull, pour out the brain, and eat everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like cracking a nut
Yeah.
with a beak. Yeah.
Except you don't eat what's inside.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
pull it out and say that's disgusting.
It's like
and then,
getting
like
rid of a
pulling
peach pit.
or the
Yeah.
tail out of like a shrimp.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. I love it. What great imagery. Then for attacks, they have a multi-attack of 2. One with its beak, obviously, and then what is their tentacle attack. So the beak I'll talk about first. It's a simple melee attack of +4 to hit with 2d4 plus 2 piercing damage. Seems pretty basic and pretty boring and not as scary as 5d6 that you had.
Yeah, but it was only a +2 to hit.
Yeah, that's
so.
fair. But again, the fun one is the tentacle attack. So this is a melee of +4 to hit, 1d10 2 piercing damage right away. But it is a DC 11 con save to not be poisoned for 1 minute. Poison for them means that you are paralyzed and that the creature, the paralyzed condition, and then the creature can retry the save at the end of each of its turns. However, on top of that, the target is also considered grappled. The escape DC is 15.
Which is going to be hard to do when you're paralyzed.
Correct.
Yeah.
If the creature is medium or smaller, they're also restrained.
Yay.
So not only are you paralyzed, but you are also grappled and restrained. And the restraint continues until the grapple itself ends. So again, you're both grappled and restrained and now potentially paralyzed. While you're grappled as well, the Grell has advantage on attacks against you, which does make sense.
Yeah.
But you also cannot use your attack action to attack something else other than the Grell. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
it does
Yeah.
make sense, but like if there's something standing right beside you and like you could, you just can't.
Especially because it's got 10-foot reach on the tentacle attack. So,
Yeah.
you could be in the middle of other creatures.
Mm.
But what is attacking beside the Grell? I feel like they don't have...
Well, they attack in packs, so you're gonna have another
Yeah.
Grell.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So
You said CR3?
CR3.
Okay, so it's CR5 when you have 2 and CR6 when you have 3. Yeah, you'll be fighting these in tier 2.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But again, I feel like these were ones that will scare your party, will kill an NPC,
Yeah.
because they're gonna grab that one that just can't get out.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're going to go down and your group is going to want to escape depending on what's going on, right? Because the other joy is that if the Grell moves, you move with it. So this is going to be one who's going to grab the NPC and start hovering away with it.
At 30-foot movement, so it could dash 60 feet.
Yeah.
And because it hovers, it can go off a cliff.
Yeah.
Right, and not worry about fall damage.
Yeah.
Yep. So it might even just be thieving and
Yeah.
the next adventure is going to be trying to find them, right?
Yeah.
Go deeper into the lair to find your friend that got
Yeah, you
all
don't even
knocked.
know where they went, right?
Yeah.
It just waits till that last person comes through the door, grabs them,
Yoink.
skedaddles.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's a surprise attack, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
going to walk through a door in a dungeon. 3 of these are going to drop down from the ceiling, grab someone. 2 are going to save, 1's going to fail, and then they're going to fuck off with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, to cover the escape of the last one.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And then you got little baby ones in a nest. That's...
The joy that
Yeah.
lit up in your eyes was hilarious to me.
yeah.
But yeah, that's the Grell.
Okay. Now I'm wondering if they feed them like baby birds.
I
And
hope
do
so.
they lay eggs?
I don't know. I didn't look up their breeding habits,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Hold on.
Why not?
Risky
Here we go.
Google
You gotta
search of
come
the night.
prepared.
Here we go.
These are the important questions.
I'm sorry. I really did not get into it.
We're taking bets on whether or not I can find this on the internet because old editions were fucking weird.
It's true. Hold on here.
I found their fucking anatomy with an x-ray of the organs inside their head.
Of course you did.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like a brain, but it's got organs.
Yeah, okay.
Well, they have different colonies and stuff from other...
Oh yeah, their priorities are colonize new lands and feed.
Yeah, om nom. Very cute.
You gonna ask questions?
Yeah, I thought we were looking at...
No, okay. I
want to do that while we're really asking questions.
Yeah,
well, all right,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
let's roll
I'm
up
just
and
killing
we'll
time.
ask some questions.
Sure, I'm gonna grab the black die.
You bitch.
Yeah, keep that, Megan. That's what you get for stealing from me in the first place.
I did it. I got a 14.
All right, Megan. What kind of role play do you have for us here?
So they only speak Grell as a language. Which
What does it sound like?
I don't know. Because it's a beak. I imagine that they squawk. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. I do feel like the fact that they have this weird immunity to, well, not weird, but their immunity to electricity, and have the ability to sense you, like I would want to describe what that looks like somehow. And I don't really know exactly how to do that. All I can think of in my head is like, you know, in Legend of Zelda, those like jellyfish blobs that float around in like Jubba Jubba's belly, if anybody's played Ocarina of Time.
No.
Well, the internet, there you go. That's all I can think of, because it's
Yeah.
basically jellyfish with tendrils like float around, and then they're just covered in like a small layer of electricity.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to up the CR, I might actually have it so that when you hit it, you might take electric damage, which I thought would be really cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's played up enough, other than the fact that when they grapple you, you're paralyzed. But if I want to describe that as a DM, you're paralyzed because you're getting shocked, right? It's not just like it's a poison under the condition, but I would play it up as if it was a being shocked by electricity.
Okay.
Is the direction I would go.
I like that idea. I also like the idea, if you're going to play with the electricity, like when you get close to them, your hair starts standing up on end.
Yeah.
Like you just got a bunch of static going on.
And that might even be your exploration clue that they're around, is that your hair stands on end. Like when you rub a balloon on your, on your hair.
Yeah.
Adam, you were up next. Do you have any role play?
Yeah, they clearly have societies. If they colonize, then they have societies. That means there's going to be elders and there's going to be young. I couldn't find anything about there being like the mating or birthing rituals, but there are definitely young ones that are a darker color and old ones that are a paler color. So I found that out.
Yeah.
So that says to me that you're going to have elders, you're going to have soldiers, you're going to have things that stay behind to tend to young, but I'm not getting a, like, we all have our own little houses and this one has a palace. Like, it's got a colony the way mushrooms have a colony, right? Like, they exist in a dank cave somewhere and...
Yeah, like bats.
Yeah, right? So...
Or bees.
Yeah, but it's going to be... they're going to interact with each other, and I think if you've got enough of them together, the electrical charge, I would have there be, like, layer actions.
Yeah.
Of, like, lightning effects and shit, too, if enough of them are panicked or...
Oh, like a call lightning inside.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and you know, the bigger I would have, you know, there be a large version that's a matriarch or a patriarch or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, and they're going to communicate, and I'm going to have them communicate like birds with a whole lot of tentacle movements as body language, right? So they're going to squawk and chirp and whatnot like birds, but it's the movement of the tentacles that are going to be an indication to my players about, you know, emotions or intentions or whatnot. So I'm not going to spell it out for the players. I'm just going to say, and the tentacles wiggle to the left when they blah, 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 blah. And we'll see if you can figure the code out by the time we're done. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking in terms of a quest plotline, like they're relatively smart. So I think they are going to encourage something to almost hunt them to get prey.
Oh, they're going to bait.
Yeah, they're going to bait, right? Like I was thinking they're hanging out at the bottom of a well and they keep stealing buckets every time the townspeople drop one down.
Yeah.
And so the townspeople are like, well, what the fuck is going on here? And then just keep sending people down, right? Like I saw this tweet one time that was, you know, I was talking to my neighbor and he was telling me that coyotes got my cat again. And he's like, well, how many cats have you done? And he's like, well, I've gotten like 6. And he's like, well, it sounds like you're just feeding stray cats to the coyotes.
Yep.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and I do feel like they are smart enough to be stealthy. They're
Yeah.
smart enough to use their tentacles or their electric pulses to signal each other as well, right?
Yeah, and they can watch for a long time before getting someone to come in. Well, I guess they can't really watch because they only get 60
Well, they've
feet.
got the blind sight, right? So if they are near enough some sort of regular passage, or there's one way in, one way out.
Yeah.
They would be sentries. They would sit there and wait.
Yeah. And again, they're smart. So like they're gonna hover and wait for the smaller creature to walk through. They're gonna let the large sized ogre walk past and then wait for the little like elf creature and then it's like, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love the visual of like the orc going through the door going, oh, there's nothing here. And then 30 tentacles come down all at once because there's 3 of them. Wrap it up. You got to save. You're going to fail, right? And then these massive beaks just come down, pecking like crows, just taking apart the barbarian.
Yeah.
Right?
Gross, Adam.
That's so much fun.
Going straight for eyes.
Yeah. This is why I like having all of the same monster go on the same turn in initiative. Right? They go exactly one after another.
Yeah.
Or all at once. So that you can do these pack tactic ideas. Not actual pack tactics, but like you can use strategy with them and it's going to be immediately apparent what they're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Just bam, 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 bam. And the barbarian goes, oh shit, it's my next turn. I have half my health. I didn't rage last round. I'm fucked. Right? So.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm getting you whether you like it or not.
Well, that was the thing with the Gibbering Mouther as well, and you're going to get these with the Grells, is, you know when you knock someone unconscious and they're making death saves, then you move on to the next one? Not these guys. They kill.
Yeah.
They're there to eat. That's what this is, right?
Yeah. All right, sweet. Megan, do you have any exploration tips?
So for these ones, I do feel like they'll be in sewers, dungeons, caves. So they'll be in like your crawler sections of whatever game you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you could throw them into any dungeon and have them make sense because they're going to go to places where creatures travel a lot.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an underground tunnel between cities or like, I don't know, like the thing that I picture the most maybe would be like a tree in the forest that has like an internalized ecosystem that you wander through and the tendrils look like vines, right? And so they know they can hide there, so they tend to be there and wait for like the forest creatures to go through. And every once in a while they get like a party that's going through for like your big MacGuffin or your travel, right? So these would be really good for a random encounter because I feel like you could throw them in anywhere.
Yeah.
And it'd be a good scare for your party that there are weirder things out there than just your classic wolves and XYZ. Because you're getting to your tier 2 where you're going to start seeing some of that weirder shit, right?
See, I used them as a random encounter at a session that you weren't at when you guys were traveling.
Great.
And you were, everyone was moving through the forest, but there was a thick canopy. And so they knew that there was something coming. They could hear the squawks, right, from these loud echoing squawks of large birds up in the canopy. And then these tentacles came down and were just dragging across the forest floor, just looking for whatever critter it could find as it was moving. And they couldn't see the top part. So they just saw the tentacles moving.
Yeah.
And it scared the shit out of the party. So they ran. And they got into tall grass, where the tall grass ended in like kind of wheat puffs as well. So there was this shit blocking their vision above. And they were there and they would watch the tentacles go by in the grass, just narrowly missing them by a foot or two. And we played, it was essentially a stealth mini game to get away from 7 or 8 of these things that were moving.
Oh my God.
Through. Okay. I mean, you guys were level 5 at that point, and I wanted something good and deadly because you guys were hitting pretty hard. So I really like that as far as the atmosphere and the scare factor.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't there because my character would have gotten grabbed and died immediately.
Yes.
And we all know that.
Yes. That's what you're for, Megan.
So every session I die at least twice.
Yeah. But no, my exploration hint for everyone is as people get paralyzed and they get dragged away, they're going to drop the shit they're holding. Follow the breadcrumbs of items that adventurers would carry. Whether it's a backpack or a map or a compass or a sword, whatever's in their hand, they will drop it and they will get removed from it.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and they don't collect treasure, so it would just live there forever. Yeah. So it would be a breadcrumb to wherever their lair is or their colony is. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that idea. I would more so go drag marks, right? Like you would see the heels getting dragged through because they're not that big. I don't think they're going to be lifting them all the way up to the ceiling to carry these things.
It specifically says drag.
Yeah.
But I love the scoop of it as well.
Yeah, like the holding.
And that's why that's why there's 3 of them. So there's 30 tentacles picking it up. Like
it picks up this like giant like Loxodon and like carries it up.
what's the fucking light as a feather, stiff as a board?
Yeah.
Right? There you go.
All right.
Oh, good to know that you went through your witch phase when you were a teenager too.
Well, I mean, who did?
3 of them carrying something off, it just kind of makes it makes me think of like those scenes in movies where they carry off the corpse of someone who just made like a heroic sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
With the gladiator music playing in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
The camera is affixed to the corpse that is moving over the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now that all I can picture though is the 2, like, because of the 2 fingers for light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Yeah.
All I can imagine is that each only puts 1 tentacle under.
Yeah.
And then just lifts it and like starts carrying this off like in a graceful like hoist.
And they're chanting quietly in Grell.
I feel like there's going to be people on the internet that don't know what that is, what light as a feather, stiff as a board
Yeah.
is. And they're going to take that as an innuendo of some kind. And they're like, no, it is an innocent activity.
Maybe we were doing it differently then.
We do different things all the time, Adam.
Oh, also for exploration, I like the idea of just finding, like, since they don't eat brains, you just find a pile of rotting
discarded brains.
Yeah.
I found a
Trash
compass,
pile.
a sword, a backpack, a brain. Wait a minute.
Being omnommed by the little jelly mouth thing that you have that you were talking about somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That'd be good. All right, combat.
Yeah, again, like they're just gonna, it's the sneak attack for them. And then if they grab someone, they're gonna run away with it. They're not gonna hang around with the body. So you're gonna lose somebody for sure. And then, yeah, I feel like I talked about that a lot. I have nothing new other than that.
I look at it like this. The average commoner has an intelligence of 10, which is a +0.
Yeah.
They've got an intelligence of 12, which is a +1, which doesn't seem like a lot, and wizards are a +4, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But they are smarter than the average person. Which means my combat hint here is these guys will retreat to fight another day. They may look like there's some otherworldly crazy creature, just a monster to put in the dark, but the fact that they have a full society, that there are elders and young, and there will be guards and sentries and hunting parties and shit, right? Like, that's more than likely what you're going to run into in the Underdark or in some sort of crazy, scary area that they have kind of taken over. There will be a home for them to go to recuperate. I also read, I don't know if this is 5th edition, just as I was scanning, I found out that the tentacles will regenerate. They'll just grow them back if they get cut off, which means I would let the players target the tentacles, and after a certain number of them, they'll fuck off and leave. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm no longer effective. I need to go recuperate.
Yeah. Okay.
Fair enough, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, speaking on that, actually, and going back to the exploration thing, I think they're smart enough to leave a false trail, right? So they grab your guy on a surprise attack and then run away and then throw his gear off, like, because there'll be 2 of them. So one of them will keep dragging the guy and then the other one will just throw his gear off a side tunnel, right? To kind of throw off the chasing people so they can get away with their meal.
No. Yeah, I like that. The other thing, too, is if they're smart enough and they end up in a dungeon, they will hover over pit traps and not trigger them, right?
Yeah. Know where they are and lead you onto one first.
Yeah, they may not have built it, but they know it's there, right?
Tricksy. That's pretty
sneaky.
good. I also like the idea of, after combat, harvesting one for a whip, using its tentacles as a whip.
Oh, the tentacle whip. That's fun. There are rules in the Eberron book about actually, like, grafting a tentacle whip onto your arm to be able to use.
Ew.
Aberration tentacle whip that you get. There's some sort of negative connotation of it as well. Like, it's a cursed item.
Yeah.
But I'd look there if I'm going to, like, graft on a tentacle. That's fun.
That's pretty creepy.
That'd be good for a monk.
Yeah.
It takes a special kind of person, though, to think that would be a good idea.
The grafting part or the whip part?
The grafting part. Like, here's the thing. I feel like for instance, my monk character, like, yeah, let's make a great whip, but I am not adhering it to my body. Like,
yeah.
My body's a temple, and this temple's gonna get fucking weird.
But then you can be like,
it's gonna get weird up in this temple.
But then you can be like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, see, I'm all over it.
So,
yeah.
Okay, I see the advantages now. You know what? Actually, that's what I like about Grim Hollow is a lot of their monster manual. It has individual harvesting ideas for all the monsters.
One of my favorite things that I found, and this is not my own personal story, it was online, someone was talking about the most hilarious joke that they ever pulled on their players were, so you know that if you pop out your eye and put in Vecna's eye or his hand, you get the powers of, right?
Yeah.
And so this was well established in a long time group of friends playing. And so the DM started sprinkling hints down of the head of some old lich or wizard or whatnot. And you replace the head of. And so they ended up questing to go after this head. And sure enough, they find the thing that's probably the head, but we need to test it. And so the players, and this is like why players would graft, because you're just chaotic, stupid. Right?
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, so the players were like, okay, yeah, do me. Give me the head. We'll see if it works. I'm prepared to die. So they lop off his head and put the other one on, and nothing happened. And they're like, did he meet the prerequisites or requirements? Okay, hold on. And they managed to go through 3 party members before they realized that this whole thing was never really a thing. It was just a decoy that the like enemy wizard had set up. So they'd been murdering each other.
I would be so mad as a player for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Dan would fucking weep.
Yeah.
He would be so mad. But that is a Charlie move, and if it didn't work, he'd be mad at me for
That's what I mean. Like, there's a few people at our table that would not go with that period. Casey and I would laugh for like 5 hours about it.
Dave would volunteer, get decapitated, and go, all right, hold on, I got another character here somewhere.
Yeah. I'd be like, oh, my beloved character for 5 minutes. And then I'd be like, oh, well, great way to go.
I'm sorry, but if you are dumb enough to cut off your own player character's head...
Right? And the fact that...
on a whim for something that might happen, you deserve to die.
The DM set that up for weeks.
Yeah.
Just like to bamboozle them.
Great MacGuffin.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, so good. Anyways, don't do that with a Grell, but that was just a fun story to tell.
Lob off your hand and attach a Grell like tentacle for a whip. Great, awesome.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Oh, you know what? I would absolutely have Mind Flayers do that, because they're aberrations. They're under Darky. They're the same thing.
Yeah.
Where you're fighting them, and then suddenly one of them's just got a whip arm.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
Like an illithid doing that. So just to beef up some of the basic Mind Flayers to give them a paralyzed hit.
I do love a good mad scientist.
Yep.
Creature. So, all right, sweet. Okay, so we're going to move on to the final monster, which is me, the Otyugh.
You are the monster.
Wow.
But you're doing okay.
He's doing okay.
I'm doing okay.
Was me saying that to you on recording when I said that you're okay?
I don't remember.
I
It
hope
wasn't-
so.
Well,
Go ahead, talk about your monster.
I don't want to anymore. You ruined it.
Were you on the episode? I think it was me and you where we got real condescending to Terry, where we're like, Terry, you're doing a fantastic job. And he was real wounded by the end of the episode.
Oh Lord, I imagine I would have been on that episode, but I don't remember it.
That was like 50 episodes ago or something.
Yeah, we record a lot.
Yes.
Anyways, the Otyugh from the Monster Manual. So these hideous creatures with large, bulbous bodies, about 8 feet long and weighing in at about 500 pounds, are borne along by 3 thick, elephant-like legs and covered in a rock-like skin. Protruding from the sides of their body are 2 long tentacles that end in spiky, leaf-like appendages that it uses to shovel food into its massive, fang-filled maw, while a third, containing its eyes and nose, sprouts from its back.
That's so fucking weird.
Yeah, it is really weird.
It's so gross looking.
Yeah. So I can't find any source for this, but the general consensus that I see online is that this was probably inspired from the garbage disposal monster from Star Wars.
Oh, yeah?
Okay, yeah, because this appeared in December 1977, which is just 8 months after the release of that film.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. As for their lore, it is also fairly similar to the monster in the movies, in that they like to make their homes in the darkest, dankest, and smelliest of places, generally avoiding bright light like the plague unless enticed into it by some large source of food. They are omnivorous and willing to eat just about anything. And as such, some sentient underground races have learned to use them as a mix of garbage disposal and guardian. And since a well-fed Otyugh is a happy Otyugh, they are unlikely to attack if they are kept properly fed. However, more than a few owners have wound up in their pet Otyugh's stomachs as a result of underestimating just how much these things can eat. In the wilderness, they are generally found to make their homes in stagnant swamps, scum-filled ponds, and damp forest dells. Though they can be tempted towards civilization if lured by enticing aromas of graveyards, city sewers, village maidens, and manure-filled animal pens. So basically, these things just like to eat a lot of
stench.
Yeah. They are, by and large, ambush predators, often burying themselves in offal and carrion. So if this is also like a slaughterhouse animal.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that would go in there.
In my homebrew world, I've got sewers, right? That where we had a bunch of oozes that were managing the actual like disposal of things.
Yeah.
Otyughs would have been a great thing to put down there instead.
Yeah. They're ambush predators, so they bury themselves beneath offal and carrion so that only their eye and nose stalk kind of sticks up. Right?
I wonder if things popping out of the ground would be so fucking scary.
Oh, it's just like a little periscope. Yeah, they kind of make me think of hippos too.
Yeah, right? A little bit.
So yeah, they basically lie in wait for unfortunate creatures to wander too close by, or they also have a limited version of telepathy that they can use to lure in victims by giving them an illusion that there is something else there.
Yeah.
Right? So as for their stat block, they are large, neutral aberrations with a challenge rating of 5. They have 14 AC from their natural armor and averaging about 114 hit points. They have 30 feet of walking speed, and although since they remind me of hippos and they do spend time in swamps and sewers and stuff like that, I would definitely give them a swim speed. I think they should have one.
Yeah.
Their highest stats are strength and con with a +3 and a +4 respectively. They have a +1 in wisdom, 0 in dex, and then a -2 to charisma and intelligence. Go figure for something that's constantly covered in shit. For saving throws, they have a +7 to con and no bonus to skills, which is kind of surprising because based on their lore, I would assume that they had something for stealth.
I'd even give it deception. With their using the telepathy to like fool people with messages and shit to come over here.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Even if it was just like a trait that gave them advantage on stealth checks when they're buried, right? Because they only have that little thing that's, I don't know, the size of a leaf basically. They have 120 feet of dark vision and can speak Otyugh. For traits, they have limited telepathy, meaning they can send simple messages and images to a creature up to 120 feet away in a language that it can understand, although that communication can only work one way.
What's interesting is that they speak Otyugh, but their intelligence is not much more than a hill giant.
Yeah.
So I think that language is probably just very simple, like what you would expect orcs to be grunting at each
Grunts
other.
and
right?
grogs, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that way. Like, over here, right? Like,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Or food.
I don't think they're conjugating the past participle is my point here.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. For attacks, they get a multi-attack where they can attack 3 times, twice with its tentacles and once with its bite. Its bite gets a +6 to attack, 5-foot reach, and deals 2d8 +3 piercing damage, while also forcing the target to make a DC 15 con save against becoming poisoned, whereby every 24 hours, that target must repeat the saving throw, losing 1d10 off its maximum hit points on a fail, and ending the condition while regaining their original hit point maximum on a success. If a creature is reduced to 0 hit points from being poisoned, it dies. But then they also get a tentacle. Their tentacle attack is also +6 to hit, this time with a 10-foot reach, and deals 1d8 +3 bludgeoning damage as well as piercing damage. If the target is a smaller medium creature, it becomes grappled as well as being restrained with an escape DC of 13. And the Otyugh can grapple 1 creature in each of its 2 tentacles.
What did you say the CR was on this again?
5.
Okay. Yeah, a DC 13 is reasonable.
Yeah.
For CR5.
I mean, that's it.
It's higher than the 10 from the last one, so.
Yeah, the 10 sucks because it's 55% chance of just succeeding on a straight roll. And and some of them are going to have bonuses. 13 at least evens the playing field.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is all of its attacks have DCs. So the piece of resistance here is the tentacle slam. So the Otyugh can slam creatures that it has grappled either into each other or into walls or trees or any sort of hard surface, right? So creatures being slammed have to pass a DC 14 con save, where on a fail they take 2d6 plus 3 bludgeoning damage, as well as becoming stunned until the end of the Otyugh's next turn. While on a pass, it has them only taking half that much damage and not becoming stunned.
What's interesting is that between the 3 monsters we've talked about so far, we've covered a lot of different conditions, and the highest one is a CR5. Mm-hmm. This is why we started the episode off by saying, how often do you use these, right? And like, how early do you introduce these aberrations? Like, earlier on more experienced players, right? Who are going to be familiar with this. If you hit one of your fucking, like, newbies with these guys, they're going to be shocked and angered.
I think it's a good, like, and like you could make it a little less deadly on your side if you want to fudge the rolls a bit, but I also feel like it's a good way to teach players about these types of mechanics they don't always come in contact with.
My problem is that one of these could easily kill a player if they're dumb or a little bit reckless, or the rolls go against them.
Put the fear of the gods into them, you know what I mean?
You gotta teach them not to be dumb.
Teach them to not be stupid.
You let me know how that fucking works, because I've been trying that shit for decades.
You've been trying to kill my character for 2 years and she is still alive.
So, job well done.
One of these days. Yeah. Do you hear the fear of God in this voice? I don't think so. Megan just cackles and says, "Do it again, I dare you."
So she's put the fear of God into you, is what it sounds like.
Wouldn't say God, but...
The devil.
12. Well, I got knocked to a 2, so thanks,
hey,
guys.
That's right.
I'm a 17.
All right, Adam. What kind of roleplay inspiration do you have for us?
I like the idea of them doing the ambush. See, you went with hippo. Mm-hmm. So I had to roll my eyes because you mentioned the trash monster from Star Wars. And what bubbled up into the back of my brain from when I was 13 was, that's called a Dianoga. Fuck me. I am such a nerd about this shit.
Gross, Adam.
Yeah, I'm not proud of that.
That's an you, Adam, for you.
Yeah. I gave myself the ick. So, I honestly think that these guys are going to be best found in the aftermath of a battle, where there are people going out to recover the bodies on the battlefield, and they're using their telepathy to say, "Oh, over here, help." And then you get close enough and they just grab another one, and they probably have, it doesn't say there's a burrow, but I'm going to make them burrow underneath cadavers, and then come up, grab someone, and just add to their pile of bodies for the next medic or priest or whoever to come by, and then scoop the next one. I bet they could feast in the aftermath of a battle.
Okay.
Yeah?
I don't think they're that smart, or I don't think that their hunger will let them think that far ahead. They go, "Oh, look at all these dead people. Look at this feast." Right? And they are going to eat first, and then maybe if they don't like the guts, they'll leave that. But yeah, I don't know if they're smart enough to plot.
With the wisdom, though, that's high. See, wisdom for me is always, how do they interact with the world? Are they a good hunter? Are they a good ambusher? When they are, their wisdom tends to be high.
Yeah.
Right? Intelligence is really about book learning and trivia.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
Facts.
and they don't have that. There's no reason why they would. So their wisdom leads me to believe that they would lay traps. Look, there are some spiders that lay traps that have an intelligence of 1, if you were to, like, real world spiders. There are creatures out there that have lower intelligence than a 6 that are able to use basic tools.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't have any problem doing that, especially with an aberration that has a weird otherworldly mind.
Okay.
So
I see what you're saying, but I think where I'm coming from is the lore too, right? Where they're used as basically garbage disposals, right? And they are good. They don't really care about killing if food is available.
Yeah, I was going to go the route of, like, not just that they live in battlefields to eat things on their own for hunting purposes. I'm going the route of, like, they're fully ass domesticated in terms of people have them in battle arenas to clean up afterwards.
Oh.
Right.
You know what would be a really good... Sorry, I'm thinking about civilizations.
Yeah.
and you said they eat corpses and they're attracted to graveyards and shit. You know who else are ghouls?
Yeah.
You could come across a battle in a graveyard of 3 Otyughs and 2 ghouls fighting. Right?
Tugging on a corpse.
This is my dinner.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Like 2 dogs battling over a steak.
Yeah, but they will have like a territorial issue there.
Yeah.
And then your heroes can come in and slaughter the group of them. Or maybe they team up with one side. Because I don't remember, you're undead. Do ghouls have brains? They've got a little bit of intelligence, don't they?
Ghouls?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to say. Let me find out. Hold on here. It's been a while.
I got it. Intelligence 7.
There you go. Well, no.
And they speak common. So
Well, what's their wisdom at?
10.
10?
So yeah. Which side do you want to go with? Because they both speak. They're both intelligent enough. That's a fun little disturbing. Whose side do you pick, or who do
you let win?
Yeah.
Or let them battle it out and try and sneak around so you don't have to deal with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or get some popcorn and watch.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of them being utilized in battle arenas in terms of like they're domesticated so they don't really care because they're wise enough to know if I just sit here I will get fed.
Yeah.
And then but if you piss it off it's going to fight you kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they go into the battle arena to clean up after everything's done, right?
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
But if you end up in the arena while it's cleaning, then you're going to have something that you have to fight.
Or they use it like the Rancor in Return of the Jedi too.
Yeah.
Open the grate and toss people in, right?
Yeah.
This is how we get rid of our enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they could also serve in the battle arena like tigers and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, sweet. How about exploration inspiration?
You're going to know you're hunting one of these things, but only if you've run into them before, because they're tripods and not in the sexy way.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Is there a sexy way?
I'm just defeating Kyle today. This is about the 3rd time that he's just flopped over with his head in his hand. So, no, like, you're going to be able to look at this and say, you know, it's clearly not like a 3-legged dog, right? Like, this was not something that's been injured. This is something that has 3 legs. With the exception of the Otyughs and Zorn, I can't think of anything else that's a 3-legged creature in D&D. Not off the top of my head. There's got to be something, but one of the listeners is yelling at their speakers right now. But,
Yeah.
We don't know everything.
well, hold on a sec.
I don't.
Yeah, so I would say that these things should be relatively easy to track, and they're not going to really be hiding or stealthing their way through anything.
Yeah.
No, they're loud and proud, and I feel like they think that they're the biggest predator in the area, no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
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 I think that was you next, Kyle.
Yeah, it is. So for clues about finding it, I mean, smell is obviously something that's going to set you off. I think these things are going to smell absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Right? And then I also like the idea of it just kind of using its telepathy to lure stuff in. And I like to think it's smart enough when you're talking about like the 11th wisdom is knowing what kind of prey to use or what kind of image to use for what kind of prey.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you might have, if it's hunting a rabbit, maybe it gives it images of like a nice burrow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or like a mate or something like that. Or if you're doing it like, if it's trying to get a human, you might show something in danger, right? Like you might have this vision of someone stuck at the bottom of a well. So it's acting like a reverse Lassie.
You just like Wells this episode.
I do like wells.
His inspiration is Wells.
Yeah.
We really like
I also
Wells.
just got the idea, the sentence reverse Lassie stuck in my head. And so...
That's just an inside-out dog.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Pushing Timmy down the well.
You, Timmy. I like the idea. You kept talking about swamps and hippos and shit too, right? And as far as exploration goes, I'm thinking about the rumors and the role-playing around. Do you think that the bullywugs would have rumors about the monster in the swamp?
Probably.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
And we don't go near the shore because the whispers will get to you.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a really cool little hook in tier 1 to get you.
Yeah, don't follow the river upstream because...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something's in the water.
Yeah. It's going to be like the whole, like, if you play in a bayou, you know?
Yeah. The banjos from Deliverance start playing.
Amazing.
I have nothing appropriate to say. So, Megan.
I don't really have a whole heck of a lot to add in terms of, like, again, the exploration piece, other than, of course, when you're tracking it, to your point, they're easy to track. You're going to see 3 footprints in the ground. But in terms of what their layers and stuff are like, if this is not a domesticated version or one that is actually used by society, I think in the wild, its nest or where it lives, it's not going to live there for very long.
I think roams, hey?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a roaming kind of thing, because it's going to find a space, it's going to run out of food, people are going to realize it lives there, they're going to stop coming into its area or its lair, or it's going to just eat itself out of house and home, and then go and find its next house and home. So I think that you could potentially use these in a random encounter of one that's traveling between spaces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
So especially if you are like playing like a river campaign where there is a source of water that runs through it and you're following the river along, it's probably doing the same thing but in the opposite direction, so you might run into it. Or it's traveling between cities.
I bet it's traveling in groups too, because it has a language.
Yeah.
Right?
So it might pack up and like have a bunch of with it, and you'll have to fight a herd, or you see a herd on the other side of the river and you're like, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. All right, Adam, combat inspirations.
I mean, the tentacles is where it's at. You don't have to get close. What was the movement speed for them?
30 feet.
Yeah, they'll run up to you, and then they'll reach another 10 feet to hit and grapple. My favorite thing about it is that they're going to smash people together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Why are not more things doing that? Like, I feel like that should just be something that giants can do too, right? Just pick up 2 creatures and mush.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Smish.
I really think that is something that I'm going to start adding in my campaigns. If it's bigger than you, if it can pick you up, and it can pick up more than one of you.
Yeah.
You're
Smush.
Smush, yeah.
Also, tossing something into a wall is just a fun mechanic.
They've got a mechanic for that, I think, in the Kraken stat block. Like, they're in here. They're in the monster manual, but they're not, everywhere. And so you got to go hunting.
I feel like if you're going to throw something against a wall, I would do the distance and it would just be fall damage hitting a wall. And you lose a tooth. Oh, my
Now I'm imagining like a giant tournament where it's like darts, but they're throwing humanoids instead.
Adam has an idea.
They're throwing gibbering mouthers.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's how you get past the initial like speed problem.
Yeah.
Is you have something else like just pick it up and whip it across the battlefield.
Yeet.
Little fucking sticky bombs that just... And then they start gibbering at you.
Yeah, even they can be like grenades. You throw it hard enough and it just splits.
Yeah, that's fun.
Go, Gibbering Mouther.
Gibbering Mouther,
Isn't it just a trubbish? Like,
I don't know. The Otyugh's a lot of fun, but like, I get why they're so popular. And they really are. Like,
are they?
Oh yeah, they're one of the holdovers from early D&D.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah,
and they make it into every monster manual, and they're one of the first minis that's produced every time that there's a new pack.
Trash monster.
Yeah, like they're one of the more famous and popular aberrations.
Yeah,
that I think new players don't really know are there unless they've specifically been exposed to it, right?
Yeah,
but they're really flavorful.
It's true.
Do you have any combat?
Nothing to add, to be honest with you. But here's the thing though. If I was to play one of these in my campaign, I would give it like a charge capability.
Oh, I like that.
Like, I want it to run at you as fast as it can.
Trample you.
Tentacles just wiggling in the air.
Because I think that like there's a lot to be said of the fact that it has 3 legs. So describing how that looks and how that sounds when you're like in combat, I think would just be really fun.
Is it 2 legs in the front or 2 legs in the back?
It's 2
legs in the front
and 1 in the back.
So it would run and it would sound like thump 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 thump.
And so like it'd be cool to describe that as an exploration piece if you don't see it right away, like if you're in the darkness of a dungeon, or just like that it has like a fear tactic to when you're wanting to fight it. I think that's just fucking hilarious.
Also, I want to point out that anytime that anything has a 10-foot long tentacle, grates, portcullises, bars on windows and shit, you should be reaching through.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's whether it's an Otyugh or a Grell or whatever.
Yeah.
Use the opportunity to work with your reach.
Yeah. And then you can just smash the whatever you have.
Yeah, right into the bars. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
I love that we've now digressed into different ways to smash your players against walls.
Player characters. Smashing your players is very different.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for you, Adam.
All right, not even moving forward. Kyle, rescue me.
It's almost that time again, but before we say goodbye, let's jump into our last info break.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram, or on our subreddit r/itsamimic. Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes and comments. Engagement like that help us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
All right. Any final inspirations or thoughts around these? Do you now feel more inspired to use these earlier in your game, or do you feel like you want to stick to your answer of that you don't use them early?
I won't use them against new players because I'm potentially going to give them a mechanic or something they're not going to be familiar with, and I'm going to end up with a player character death in tier 1.
Yeah, the Gibbering Mouther especially,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, nom.
Yeah.
But still, even the Grell will, I mean, it's like a good bra. It lifts and separates, right?
Yeah.
Right?
You're not wrong.
But that splits the party when someone's paralyzed, and then you're going to have a player character death, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of slamming two characters together, I mean, if it's the halfling wizard and the orc barbarian, that halfling wizard is going to die, right?
Yeah.
Although I would throw it at a party if there's old players and a new player, I just wouldn't target the new player.
Yeah. Or if you're going to use it against new players, do it to NPCs in the first 2 rounds, and then turn your attention to the players.
Yeah,
right?
Telegraph kind of what's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add, except I want you both to know you're doing okay.
Is that how that feels? Do I do that to people?
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle.
Feel so mediocre all of a sudden.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good, does it?
Anyway, that's all for this part of our conversation on Aberrations in D&D 5th edition. Please take a second to engage with a like, follow, comment, and review to help push our engagement. But make it a positive review, please and thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to find future inspirations for your campaigns.
You know that the reviews are going to say, you're doing okay, right?
we now set the bar to mediocre is alright.
Oh.
If you'd like to support us, we have a store with some merch and a donate button on our website, itsamimic.com, as well as Patreon. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits, and don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
All right, sound check?
Sound check.
Sound check.
All right. We're going to do this.
I can move up closer.
We're going to do this.
Okay, all right. I don't want to look at Kyle. Just put it right here.
He's just sitting on the floor.
All right.
Get out of my face, Kyle.
All right, I'll go inside.
So we've got a rivalry going now, do we?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's for the bit.
Fucking dick.
It's for the plot. Take you out. I am mean to people for the plot. I'm not really.
Yeah.
There comes a time sometimes where though I'm just like, I should really be nice to somebody to balance that out. But then I remind myself that I am a god, and then that goes away.
Yeah. I'm just kind of mean by default, and I really have to like will myself to reel it in.
Oh man.
Like,
No, I hear you.
I go for the jugular sometimes when I'm talking to people.
I remember at work, I don't remember what we were talking about. We were trying to get something done, and I had done something, and like I had made it work, and I put a lot of effort into it, and like shipped it off to somebody, and they're like, "Thanks, Megan. Like that was really awesome to get that in." And I'm just like, "Good. I spent a lot of time on it. If you didn't like it, I would have punched you in the face." And I forgot that I've only been at this job for like 2 months. They don't know me, and they don't know my humor. And I was like, I had to backtrack and be like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
That's my "we're already friends" voice, but I realize that we're not friends yet. So I'm gonna just rewind and take that back. Because of the eyebrows that my boss, like, raised in, like,
Yeah.
the Zoom meeting, I was like, oh, shit. Like,
Yeah.
You all right, Megan?
It was your facial expression reaction to it. It wasn't surprise. It was just utter disappointment.
I'm learning something about myself and I don't like it. Glad I can entertain you.
All day, every day.
Aberrations. Are we...
It's like a balloon animal asking a question.
Okay, don't move for an hour and a half.
You got this.
Sound check.
It's this fucking Men in Black when he grabs the table and drags it.
Yeah.
Elevator music. I don't know why we always wait so long for the elevator music.
It literally will be less than a second by the time that we edit this and kill it. Like, we always wait for the commercial.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna hear it.
Yeah. Like the voice of God coming in the background.
Sure, I spin now and it doesn't make a fucking noise. My ass is numb from punching for an hour and a half. Fuck.
Okay, see you next time.